Welcome to this week's mailbag. Remember, these are questions and comments that you guys leave on this channel, and I do my humble best to try and answer or throw out to the community to comment on. But before we get started, here are the normal parish notices. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and want to, please do so. If you want to be notified when I publish new material to the channel, please hit that bell icon. Consider supporting the channel on Patreon. It can be found at www.patreon.com/themusictechguy UK, and somewhere down here will be the address. So, the first one this week comes from a Clunky Wall. I do love the names. And he writes, wish he had shown the repair to the relay to get rid of those noisy distortion common with these. Now this is in response to the MKS-20 video when I did, which I opened up and said what's inside the box. And I have, to be honest, been looking at how do I fix the issue for quite a period of time. And really what I was after was a sustainable fix. And I've been sort of contemplating how I do this. Now, the common theory is that the problem is being caused effectively by the anti-thump relay that sits just before the entry into the sort of amplification circuit and exit of the MKS-20. And with a bit of luck, there should be a small diagram that appears up here that shows you kind of where that is. So when the MKS-20 is switched on, the audio circuit does not engage, and then after a couple of seconds, when all the circuitry sort of warms up and what have you, and there is a relay that effectively engages the audio circuit. It's typically called the anti-thump circuit. Why that is because when you switch the mains voltage on, quite often there's a surge of electricity that goes around the circuits on the instrument, and you get a That's typically what it's about. And you know about it because typically there is a click. If you listen to the machine itself, if you put your ear on top of it, what I'm saying, put your ear on top of your synthesizer because you might look a bit weird on stage. But typically if you put your ear on top of the synthesizer, on top of the MKS-20, you should hear it go click. Okay. Now, I've been looking for a solution to this for quite a while, and I've been looking at the circuit diagrams, and I've obviously been scouring the user groups. And there really is two options to this. Option one is to try and find the AG2029 relay that Roland put in this unit. Yeah. Option two is to bypass the relay completely. And this involves taking a jumper out effectively from the live audio circuit on one side of the relay and connecting it to the live or the target on the other side of the relay, or effectively just before a set of capacitors. And you do that for the left and right channel. So effectively you take a piece of wire, you solder it on one side, you solder it on the other side, and effectively bridge the relay and take the relay out of the mix. Now the problem with that, of course, is if you're doing any sort of PA work or anything like that, when you switch the unit on, you will get the thump. That's what this relay is designed to take out. If you take the relay out, you get the thump. Okay, so the relay is quite important, or remember that don't plug it into your desk and keep the channels on the desk quite low. And if you do that, then theoretically you should be able to do this hack. Now, I've been looking to implement option two. I have seriously been looking at this. I've looked at the circuit diagrams. I know where the wires need to be jumped. Then, a couple of days ago, I actually came across a Cintar listing for a new version of the AG2029 relay, which will fit directly into the slot occupied by the original AG2029 relay. In actual fact, they're not expensive at $9 a piece, so guess what? I've gone and ordered 3 of them at $9 per pop, and it's actually cost me more in shipping to get them from Cintar to me in the UK than it actually has cost me for the parts. But there will be a video shortly showing how to actually replace this relay. And hopefully, while I've been talking, there should have been a picture of the particular relay. Not particularly good picture, I might add, because of where it is. It's under a bunch of wires on the board, but that should have appeared up there. The next one comes from Strawberry Milk, and they write, because I don't know whether you're male or female, Behringer TC Electronics supply DC adapters with the EU side and lock plug attachment. Where can I buy the UK attachment, please? And this was in response to an SMR I did about the arrival of the Behringer back at the beginning of December. No, it wasn't. It was back at the mid-January. I can't read my own dates. And I've got to be brutally honest here and say that if you are supplied with a power supply from a manufacturer for a piece of equipment, and you've got a European fit-in on that piece of equipment, you will struggle to find a UK adapter for it unless you've got it in the box. So typically, when you, like for argument's sake, when I bought the RD8, you open the RD8 and there was a choice of 3 or 4 adapters in there. One was the European adapter, one was an American adapter, one was a Japanese adapter or Far East Asian adapter, and one was the UK adapter, because of course in the UK we use plugs that look like that, which they use. I think Australia use the same plug arrangement, and I think New Zealand do as well, but I think that's the only places in the world that use this sort of 3-pin style plug. Everywhere else uses sort of kind of a round plug with various either round prongs or flat blade prongs. So my honest opinion is, if you can, go and buy another adapter. It shouldn't cost you more than probably about £10 to £15, but it's far less hassle than trying to actually source the plastic part for the adapter that Behringer originally supplied you with. Sorry, not a silver bullet on that one. Next one comes from Benjamin Harmon. In response to the mail book, can I use balance cables FX Pro 3 months on, Roland eCloud, eBay feedback, which I did only a couple of days ago. And Benjamin writes, hey, from across the pond, I just got turned onto your site by watching a vid you did on MUSE Receptor. I'm currently looking for a solution. So I'm currently looking for a solution. I know this is off topic, but is there an affordable solution to playing VSTs without a computer? Benjamin, your request is mutually exclusive. There is only one other system I'm aware of at the moment that sort of kind of sits within the MUSE territory. And that's something called the Audio Station by an Italian company called Sea Lake. And if you go onto Google and type in Audio Station, you should find their website. But be aware that a well-spec'd version of this software, this system, will cost you about €3,500 plus VAT, Italian VAT that is. Okay, once you've configured it with all the bits you want. Now, I've always had an issue with this platform since I found out about it about a year ago, and that is that it's still operating on Windows 7. Microsoft have withdrawn support for Windows 7. So I have to question the longevity of the platform. I had to question the longevity of the platform because they haven't stated any support or any statements about moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10. And I did a longer video on this, and I will, underneath this in the video, I will put the link to the longer video. The problem with that is €3,500 plus. Probably by the time you finished it, you're probably going to be into the €4,500, including the VAT. Is that's something you're prepared to drop? I suspect you might be better off configuring a laptop. The problem is there that you want to configure 2 laptops because you obviously want a spare. Then installing VST hosts like FreeVST. Don't install anything else on the machine. Try and keep it as clean and close to the operating system as you can. And I think you probably would get it set up for somewhere between 800 and 1200 euros, depending on how you configure it, of course. The problem is, if you start going down the FreeVST player route, again, you're reliant on an author or a community to maintain the software. So any problems, any issues with new VSTs. So you might think about buying a VST option. So then you've got more money to outlay. Now, you might not think maintenance is important, but believe you me, with these sort of things, maintenance is really important. Microsoft and Apple are constantly updating security patches on their machines and changing the way certain things on the machines work. And it only takes one of those and it will completely throw your VST player completely out sorts. New VSTs come along. They work in a slightly different way, which requires a tweak to the base platform for your player to be able to play them. And I'll give you a cracking example of this. Recently, Apple did the whole Catalina upgrade, which is sort of the next major step on their Apple OS evolutionary cycle. When they did that, it basically stopped all the Roland boutiques from working. So you ended up having to install a separate driver patch onto your Mac to allow you to continue to work with the boutiques, and that took about, let's say, about 6 to 8 weeks for Roland to turn that around on all its products at that point in time. So it's not a brilliant scenario to be in. You're paying someone somewhere down the line. Of course, you could be a maverick and you could go down the Linux route, but then you can, of course, unless you're a Linux guru, you'll be supporting yourself or finding somebody else to support it for you. Now, I've always thought that MUSE, if I'm honest, and now SeaLake are fulfilling a gap in the market. I do believe that there is a gap in the market for this type of instrument. In fact, I actually thought MUSE was an absolutely cracking idea. The problem that MUSE had is that the underlying, if I remember correctly, the underlying architecture was a Linux architecture. And every time VSTs came out, you ended up having to get MUSE or the VST manufacturer to make specific changes to the VST to allow them to run on the platform. But once they were running on the platform, they were brilliant. Of course, the demise of the company killed the platform. SeaLake have a slightly different take on the problem, whereas their VST player is part of a wider band-in-a-box concept, which I really do actually quite like. If I was working with a band on the road, this is actually quite a good idea because you can plug VSTs into all kinds of audio channels that are coming in. You are limited to 4 VSTs per channel, I think that's right, but you can effectively run multiple channels and multiple VSTs on those multiple channels. So you could effectively run various synthesizers on each channel as you went. So they have a different stance. They use a standard Windows 7 operating system as the underlying OS, which is much better than the sort of customized Linux kernel that MUSE were using. Of course, it needs more oomph, to be honest, to make it work, because Linux kernels are typically very efficient. Windows kernels are a bit more sort of intensive in terms of CPU and RAM, etc. But Windows is out of support, and at the point where I wrote the reply to you, SeaLake were not giving any indication of when they were porting this to Windows 10 or if they were going to port it to Windows 10. But I think the problem with this hardware is getting the right people to or marketing in the right way, that the right people buy into the platform. Because I think there are lots of bands out there. If you got the price right and you got the marketing right, these bands would probably buy into this scenario, because effectively it solves all their PA, all their effects. Their guitars can come out the master PA. It's a brilliant solution for bands that are trundling around gigging. I really do believe it is a really good solution, but it is expensive. They've got to get the price right for the grassroots musician. So in a rambly way, I think the answer is there is no cheap solution, or a cheap, reliable solution. But as a footnote, because Sea Lake Audio emailed me this morning, brilliant, eh? But they actually emailed me this morning with the answer. And the answer is that they have confirmed that they will have a Windows 10 based system available April 2020. So my reservation about the platform in terms of supportability going forward kind of goes once the Windows 10 platform comes in, but then it's still €4,000. You've got to fork out to buy it. And the last one for this session from Jay Kaufman, relating to the Behringer RD8 update, the firmware video I did at the beginning of February this year. And it took me a long time to get around to doing the firmware update as well. Saved me a bit of Googling nightmare looking how to do this. Just got my RD8 in the post. They were on back order in Canada, and I Googled RD8 firmware and your video came up. So Google is working in that sense. I'm actually glad that my videos are coming up, because it seems to be there is another channel that seems to come up as well, which is not me, nothing to do with me, but has a very, very similar name to me. So I am the Music Tech Guy UK. Remember that. I'm glad he's glad I figured it out. So thanks, mate. So I'm glad to help. But what's really interesting about this is to hear that the RD8 is on back order. And as far as I can tell, they're fairly readily available in the UK. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. But open to the community. Are there any other regions out there that are experiencing a supply issue? I'd expect the whole Corona thing is going to cause a real big backlog, to be honest, because Behringer make all their equipment in a factory in China. And on that, that's the end of the mailbag for this session. So keep well. If you are affected by the coronavirus, obviously stay indoors and don't clog up the health systems. If you haven't, then obviously stay at home, stay safe, wash the hands, and I'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.